Hello, folks. They did it to us again. Those bastards did it to us again. Your Seattle Seahawks, your undefeated 3-0 Seattle Seahawks, division leading Seattle Seahawks, beat the Dallas Cowboys, preseason Super Bowl favorite, or at least one of the favorites, certainly a darling. And boy, did they make it painful. Not only how they did it, but who they lost along the way. So we have a lot to debrief on. And let me first just welcome in the crew. We got a fivesome for you tonight. There's just too much to talk about. We had to get more people on. So first off, I'm going to welcome in Evan Hill at Evan in SEA on Twitter. Welcome, Evan. And I'm going to go and introduce everybody, and then we'll just start talking. So next, I'm going to introduce Dana O'Gorman at Dana OG on Twitter. Next, Derek at Derek DERYCKG_. Let me do that again. At DERYCKG_ on Twitter. And then last but certainly not least, Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons on Twitter. Woo! All right. I don't know exactly where to start, folks. It's so easy to start by complaining.
I want to talk positively about the defense. Can I start that off?
Yes, that's a surprising way to start, and I think it's a good way to start. Let's do it.
Well, it's highlighting one person, Ugo Amadi. What a game. What a game. I feel like he had 4 or 5 key defensive plays where he was either in the backfield, was making a key tackle on second or third down. Ugo Amadi is exactly who we needed to step up in this game, and he did. They lost so many folks across the secondary. Jamal Adams got hurt. Quinton Dunbar didn't play today. Trey Flowers was absolutely abysmal. Shaquille Griffin was getting burned on several plays. Ugo Amadi made plays today, and I don't really have any further analysis outside of I'm really excited about Ugo.
Well, I mean, if we're giving out some roses on defense, I think there's more than just Ugo.
Yeah.
Jeff, I mean, who are the other guys that I think are worth, that you think are worth being complimentary of on that side of the ball?
I would go with a couple. Alton Robinson, I thought, played really, really well.
What a
sack
debut
on the final drive. He had a couple big plays throughout the game. I thought Shaq Griffin, the pass rusher, made some plays around the end of the game. And I think Jaron Reed had some good plays in the game. And Benson Mayo, who almost didn't play. The rest of the guys, not so much. So if we want to start positive, those were my guys. But, that was painful to watch.
Oh, I didn't realize this, folks. You may have already. But the Arizona Cardinals lost to the Detroit Lions. So your Seattle Seahawks are alone on top of the toughest division in all of football, the NFC West. That's some more good news. Yeah, I'd agree with you on Alton Robinson. I don't know what his final numbers were. I mean, he had 3 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, and a QB hit. I thought he was really solid, and certainly confusing why he was not active for the first 2 weeks, given what we just saw. Dana,
Yes.
our ray of sunshine, who sees light in the darkest tunnel. What do you make of that game?
It was awful. But I want to know who.
Dana, you can't do that to us.
I will do it. I
On
will.
you.
I swear. No, here's the thing. I want to know who the hell Ryan Neal is, and I want to shake his hand because he's now my favorite player that I've never heard of. I mean, of course we knew he was there, but who the hell was Ryan Neal? I'm so excited that he's there. So thank you, sir, for catching that football. This game had the best and the worst of Seattle. They had, the amazing play of Russell, and it seemed like we're pretty much all completely baffled that Troy Aikman kept saying he was off. I think his rating, he had I don't know, was it 132? I don't even know. It was ridiculous. He had a great day. And so, but the defense, as much as we hyped the secondary and how excited we were preseason about how they thought they had kind of turned the corner on most parts of this defense, I think today it showed that was not the case, and there's still quite a bit of work to do.
Man, you can't mention Troy Aikman without a little bit of a rant. I mean, I cannot believe I was actually defending him a little bit earlier because we were complaining about him in the chat. And I do think Russ was off in the first half, not overall, but I thought he was, off target on some throws he usually makes. And that was of note given how he's played so far this season. But to say at the point where he threw the 2-point conversion, that was the final margin of the game. Yeah, Russ has just been off today. That is just a ridiculous thing to say.
On the touchdown to DK, he criticized the throw.
I mean, there's only one explanation for that, and it's sour grapes Cowboys. Like, that's the only reason that you could possibly have that be the thing that comes to mind. I mean, it was a little bit of a tough catch for, I think it was Jacob Hollister, right? On that 2-point conversion. But that was not the thing to talk about. That was absolutely not the thing to talk about. Derek, in the short time I've gotten to know you, you seem like a man of reason. So I don't know what you're doing on a post-game show, because this is like completely batshit crazy most of the time. Tell me what your thoughts were watching that game.
Oh, where do you even start? It's the first half was encouraging. The offense, put up 23 points in the first half, plus, could have been 30 easily with the DK touchdown, or not touchdown. So that was really great. And then, they come out the second half, score again. You're thinking, okay, this offense is just gonna, steamroll the Cowboys. But then it slowed down and kind of collapsed for, the rest of the third and fourth quarter until the last drive. And then the defense also collapsed. Jamal Adams getting hurt is a pretty big blow. And of course, no pass rush continues to be a huge frustration. So emotions are all over the place after this one.
I hear you. And Nathan, I know we only have you for a little bit, so why don't we get your comments in here? You're a man of mystery right now with no video, but we assume that that's actually you. Are you even here, Nathan? Or you just... No?
Nathan's the Trey Flowers of our podcast right
He's
now.
getting this Andy Reid background set up.
I mean, I understand being speechless, but, even...
Nathan was quiet in the chat today, too. We all were having meltdowns the whole afternoon. He must be the calm one.
It's arguable whether or not a black box with just a name that doesn't speak is better or worse than what Evan brings to this show on a regular... But, Evan actually dropped so that Nathan could come on. I kind of feel like Evan might need to come back in here and save us. So no one does post game like Evan Hill.
Fair.
So, wow. How do you guys feel about DK Metcalf after this game? Because I'll start. I mean, that was inexcusable what he did on that play. I mean, there's no explanation. There's no reason why it's okay. There's really nothing. And I think he knows that, everybody knows that, but it's really odd that he even had that reaction to just loaf into the end zone. But honestly, I didn't think he did much to make up for it the rest of the way. The last play, he made the game-winning touchdown. He did. He caught the game-winning touchdown. But there was a lot of game between when he messed up and that final play. And he was pretty much not a huge factor. And I really thought he was going to come back after that and just be angry and earn his way back. And to be honest, he didn't, in my estimation. He didn't earn back what he cost, in terms of his overall game. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. I was really struggling. I could never be a quarterback because I do not have a short memory. Maybe like Derek or Nathan, the more balanced, emotional guys do. But I had trouble getting over that play the whole game. Like every time, just that the momentum of momentum's stupid. Just like having that 2-score advantage the whole game would have been such a big difference. And I know DK did make it up with the game-winning touchdown, so obviously great. But just the whole game, could have had that extra touchdown, and they were almost chasing. And you're right. There was a play where he had the ball thrown right in his hands and he dropped. He had a play where a couple guys around him and he dropped. He just didn't make enough plays against a pretty weak secondary, to be honest. And he obviously burned them on the 2 touchdowns. Well, only one in the end, but he should have had more. It's annoying because we should be talking about this being like the Tyler Lockett game. He was dominant. But we have so many negative storylines that we can't really focus on that because DK made us sweat it out and how bad the defense was.
I can't promise that these numbers are right because they're coming to me from my son, who, as much as I love him, math is not always his strongest subject. But Dana, he's got DK after this game on track for 64 catches, 1,584 yards, and 16 touchdowns, which I think sounds about right. He went over 110 yards today. He's been at basically 100 yards every game, 94, 95 the other two games, 16 game season. You can figure out the math there. What do you do with this kid? 4 catches and 8 targets. He was the only player in the first game against Atlanta that had an incompletion. He was 4 catches and 8 targets in that game. Is there something to be concerned about here with DK Metcalf? Like, is it possible to be concerned about a player that's on track for 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns?
It would be a complete waste of energy to be worried about a kid like DK Metcalf. It really would. Here's the thing, and I said this in our chat, and I really mean it, and it's absolutely no, shade to DK. The kid was getting a little cocky. He knows how good he is. If you follow any of his social medias, you can kind of feel it from him. He's feeling himself pretty hard, as he should be, because he's playing amazingly well. This was a good little life lesson for DK Metcalf. And I say that because he will not make that mistake again. He is not going to think that he can just stroll into an end zone. I guarantee you the rest of the season, probably for the next couple of seasons, he's going to hold that ball like a baby and run completely through the backside of the end zone. I think that this was probably good for him. On the flip side, as you guys were talking about how he didn't make it up, I think that was somewhat had to do with the Cowboys play too, because I think that they were really doubling him. They were really watching him. They know what he can do. And this just happened to be Tyler's night. Even though he still had 110 yards, he still had a great, night. This was really Tyler's night. And I think that is where the focus should be. DK Metcalf is just in his second year. This is when those players make the big jump, and he is going to learn from this. And I think that it will probably be good for him in the end.
Yeah. Fumbles weren't an issue for him last year, though.
They were. This is the second time he's fumbled at the 1 yard line out of the end zone. He did against the 49ers as well. Evan, you're as passionate of a DK supporter as anybody. How do you feel about his game today?
Yeah, first of all, you guys made me put a shirt back on for this show, so I just want you to know I'm taking great sacrifice to be here.
When has that ever been something you wanted? I mean, your best moments have been when you're showing us your nipples with tattoos on them.
I heard what Jeff said about DK Metcalf, though. I found that play very hard to get over until that last touchdown catch on that final drive by the Seahawks offense. I was chatting with some buddies here just now about that play. And one thing I'll say is, yeah, it was a super costly mistake, and I'm going to bitch about it for a while, and that's totally okay. But one thing we need to realize is that's a mistake that he will never make again. Mm-hmm. He will remember that for the rest of time. So thank God the Seahawks won. Thank God it wasn't in a high stakes playoff football game in like an NFC championship game or something. I'm pissed about it. I'm still annoyed about it, but the Seahawks won, and there's many more things to be concerned about, I think, coming out of this game, especially injury wise. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about that though.
So Derek, you're welcome to join in on the DK conversation, but there's a player that I think is going to get missed in this game. I think he's not the first player, the second player, probably the fifth player that's going to come up. But Greg Olsen had a game. Yeah, it wasn't big numbers wise. I'm looking at it now. 5 catches, 61 yards, 5 catches and 6 targets. He keyed the touchdown before the end of the first half with that catch that got him to the 1. He caught the 4th down that led to the game-winning touchdown. The guy made some plays, and we needed it. So, what's your take on how Seahawks receivers and tight ends played in that game, Derek?
I'll just briefly touch on the DK thing, and it's not even really about DK. It's about Pete Carroll and how he handles these sorts of mistakes and stuff. We saw this last year with Chris Carson's fumble issues, and he didn't, in press conferences, he didn't, we didn't punish him or anything like that. He said, no, Chris is our guy, and we're going to support him, and we're going to get this fixed. And so I really appreciate the way Pete handles these sorts of things. And I think, like Dana said, he's not going to make that mistake again. He's going to protect the ball when he's going to the end zone. So I'm not too concerned about that. As for Greg Olsen, I think it's still a growing relationship with Russ. I think he had another drop today. And obviously the pick six last week, that was unfortunate. But it's a growing relationship, but I think they have good chemistry. You know, we saw that week 1 when Russ threw that ball before Greg even turned around, right? And caught the touchdown. And Greg came up big again, several catches, like you said, Brian. So I'm excited about that. One thing, the tight end room, Will Dissly is just kind of not showing up very much. He gets a couple targets a game, but he's really been not what I think we all had expectations for this season.
That's interesting. I think that I put like 0%, maybe 2% of that on Dissly. Like I haven't seen them try to utilize Dissly that way almost at all. So, and in fact, they didn't even target a tight end until almost like the end of the first half. It was all going to receivers, which makes me kind of hopeful that the Seahawks have more in their toolbox that they haven't really unveiled yet. And I mean, they have quality tight ends. Hollister certainly contributed today. He had, was it
Touchdown and 2-point conversion.
1 touchdown and a 2-point conversion?
Can we stop that on Hollister?
Yeah.
Nick Bellore was active, but Hollister played all the fullback snaps. Did anyone else notice that?
I didn't notice that. It's a good call out. I mean, I don't think Nick Bellore is very good other than on special teams. So maybe that's his sole purpose.
Can we just cap off
special tackle
conversation real quick? Through 3 games, I don't know if you guys mentioned this. Let's just review DK's targets, catches, yards, and touchdowns through 3 games. He's 12 catches, 300 yards, and 3 touchdowns through 3 games.
Yeah. We talked about he's on track for a massive season. And yet he's left some considerable things on the field so far.
Yeah.
I mean, big drops, big fumbles, so I think that just means he's got more in him than what he's given, which is kind of insane, right? You mentioned Hollister.
You guys see what Joe Fan just tweeted out?
What did he just tweet out?
Seahawks are still 100% in the red zone through 3 games.
Yeah, Skybox Shoddy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a big part of why. It's not just Shoddy. One very own Russell Wilson. And quick shout out to our boy, Cable Thanos, Josh Cashman, for his NFL Sunday Countdown participation, and to Zach Whitman. Great to see a member of Seahawks Twitter on there. He represented well. Is putting up with some good ribbing on Twitter for his appearance, but good stuff. Russell Wilson, 24-70, 315 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. The most touchdowns through 3 weeks ever in the NFL. He's on track for 74 touchdowns.
Turns out letting Russ cook is a good thing.
Number.
That seems good.
They have to this year. They have no chance to play any other way.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Russell? I mean, what was your take? I mean, anything that stood out for you guys on Russell? Evan, go ahead.
I'm so spoiled. Like at the end of the first half, I was like talking to my buddies and I was like, man, Russell seemed kind of off. And he had 3 touchdowns and like 9 yards per attempt. And, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% completion rate. He was low on a couple of throws, but Derek, I actually wanted to throw this your direction. I'm not sure if you saw the actual final numbers on this, but Seattle was much more aggressive on early down passing usage than I felt like matched the eye test. I don't know. I'm just looking at the is Russ cooking meter that I'm on Twitter here, and they were barely less aggressive than they were against Atlanta in neutral situations on early downs.
That's pretty surprising.
Is that not surprising? Like the eye test
feel that way.
That feels really surprising. And I think there were a lot, I'd have to check the numbers, but there were a lot of second down runs in this game. And that was frustrating.
I think there a lot, meaning there's like 2 or 3. I mean,
like the third quarter where they looked like they were about to get comfortable.
Yep.
Well, guys, I mean, Chris Carson had
too
the
many other
most
things to
carries.
complain
He had
about.
14 carries in this game. And Russell Wilson was next with 6 carries. And I think at least 3 of those were scrambles, if not 4. And I want to kind of ask you guys about the offensive line as well on this front, right? So Russell was sacked 4 times, but by my count, at least 2 of those were like clear coverage sacks where he held onto the ball for 5+ seconds. That's hard to put it on the offensive line. There were injuries. Mikey Potty left for a little bit. He came back. We lost Damian Lewis. We don't know how bad. I'm hopeful on that one. I got to be honest. I don't think that's going to be a season ender for Damian Lewis. But we'll find out. I thought Jordan Simmons seemed to account himself reasonably well. Dwayne Brown, I thought, had a rough game, especially in the first half.
Oh, Alden Smith was working him.
Murdering him. Yeah.
Working him. I think he was.
Do you think that's because he was injured? Like, do you think like Dwayne Brown was less than 100% and that was why, or do you think he just was a lesser player?
I think in my opinion, the thing with Alden Smith is that he was gone and he had all those troubles and he never finished the season and, DUIs and hit and runs. I mean, all the crap that comes with Alden Smith never changed the type of player he was. He is fast. He is good. And he just wasn't available, just for lack of a better word. I think that he is just an amazing player and Dallas grabbed him. And I think he was just a lot for, how old is Dwayne Brown now? Like 35, whatever. He's a lot for Dwayne Brown at this point, but I think he's going to be a force through the whole season for Dallas. I think that it had more to do with Alden Smith than it necessarily did Dwayne Brown.
Are you guys prepared for the Cowboys and for the national media to talk about this as a game that the refs gave the Seahawks?
Really?
I'm fully prepared
that's
for
gonna
that
happen?
to be the narrative.
Why?
Did it feel like there were some super? I mean,
other than the super generous 4th and 1 spot they gave them,
Yeah,
for
that
God's
was-
sake, it was ridiculous.
Let me be clear. I'm not saying I think that that's fair or accurate, but there was enough calls that went against the Cowboys in key situations. And I know that fan base is just sour grapes. I would not be surprised if that's what we hear is just complaints about calls. Did you guys feel like the referees had any questionable calls there?
I think Dana made a great call out. That 4th and 1 that I actually think
Oh.
benefited the Cowboys was an outrageous spot.
Mhm.
Like,
Talking about when Zeke Elliott was tackled. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I just have a TV view, but that did not look like it was a
wasn't.
4th down conversion.
No, he was
I
a
don't-
few inches short.
That's a
I
great-
mean, Jeff, how about you? I mean, the Cowboys were flagged 10 times for 59 yards. Seahawks were flagged, 5 times for 30 yards for half the penalties of the Cowboys. Any of them that you thought were questionable?
Not really. Like, a lot of them were on the secondary, and the secondary all day had trouble. You saw Lockett's couple Lockett touchdowns where he's wide open, and a lot of them were pretty legit. And then the Tristan Hill guy, who's the one who ripped Carson's leg, is the guy who hit Wilson in the head. Like, if he doesn't make that play and the Seahawks get stopped on the 2-point, they might not win the game. So I think that's just like, if they come out and think that's why they lost or that's the national, that's just embarrassing. There's so many other things to take away from the game. Their secondary gave up a ton of, like, 3 deep balls for touchdowns. They can't complain about that. Ezekiel Elliott had a disastrous game. He had balls going off his head. He was running backwards. And they had 500 yards of offense. If they lose with 500 yards of offense, you can't blame the refs.
Good point about Zeke Elliott. He had a rough game. 14 carries for 34 yards. I bet most of those came on that first thing. And
Ankle sprain.
Yep. Sorry. Injury update.
Yes,
Damian Lillard has an ankle sprain. So that
Oh.
sounds potentially positive.
That's better
Yeah.
than
it could be a
People
high
were
ankle,
hoping-
which could
It
be
is, though, but Pete said knee sprain for Bruce last week, and then he had a torn ACL. So
Yeah, but ankle, I mean, it could be a high ankle sprain, and let's say worst case scenario, he misses like 6 weeks. Like,
Adams has a groin sprain, and Brooks
That's
has a
the one.
sprained knee. Not
Okay.
sure yet if any are serious.
let's talk injuries since that's coming up.
Mhm.
Let's rank order concerns about injuries, and let's put our doctors scrubs on as if we actually know what we're talking about, and make some guesses about how long they'll be out. Yes, Dana? Oh, you have them? Oh, that's
I have
right,
some scrubs.
Dana.
I get 'em so long,
You don't even have to pretend.
Nope.
So All right, Dana, let's start with you.
Okay.
First, we got Damian Lewis. We got Jordan Brooks. We got Jamal Adams. Upati, who came back, so we don't really have to include him. Chris Carson. Who else am I missing?
I think that's all.
Jordan Brooks.
I think I said Brooks, but yeah.
Did we hear what was wrong with Brooks?
Brooks' knee. Of those, which was most concerning to you?
Can I say? I'll tell you tomorrow because that's when the Monday morning. Well, let me tell you. I think obviously it's Jamal Adams or Brooke or Lewis. To me, Lewis was doing so well, and Russell looks so good behind that line. I think it says that the X-rays were negative on Lewis, so that makes me feel a little better about that. So that's good. A groin. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I'm not 100% sure, but that's like 2 to 3 weeks often, you think?
I think it's generally going to be a few weeks at least.
Yeah,
Groins are not. I think it's highly unlikely to expect Jamal Adams to play this next game.
And that's against the Dolphins, so I'm all right with that. But here's the thing. I think that with what we saw happen after Adams left and the complete collapse of that secondary, I mean, it wasn't great to begin with, but then it was really bad. I think that has to be your biggest concern. But at the same time, I really liked the way Lewis was playing, and I really hope that he can get back in because Russell just looked comfortable behind that line.
Yeah.
Is it terrible for me to say I'm not that worried about Chris Carson? Because I like Hyde better than you guys do. So I think that the run game, the way the Seattle's been playing, the run game will be fine because they aren't leaning on it so much. But I still don't want him to be hurt for a third season in a row.
I think Carson it's big. The only thing that makes that, like, I think Carson, we don't know for sure, but it looked to me, by the way, it looked like a dirty play to me. The guy kept twisting after he was down. There was no reason for him to hold on to that leg. That was bullshit.
And roll.
I mean, I saw it happening during the play and I was like, what the hell? And then Carson grabbed his knee and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I even saw Cam Chancellor complain about that. So
it was bad. Man.
That play should be investigated.
It should.
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding. Like, that is a dirty play. I called it out in the moment. I was like, he was down. And it was the roll afterwards.
Yeah.
That was completely unnecessary.
No reason for it. No reason for it. I'll be surprised if Carson hasn't torn a knee ligament. Like, that's what I'm kind of braced for. And I think losing Carson for the season is a big deal. There's a lot of folks on this pod that are like pro Carlos Hyde. I'm like, I think the guy is at best 75% of Chris Carson. That's at best. Fine. I don't know. I think Carson is a significantly better player. I think it puts more emphasis on Rashad Penny coming back. It might mean that we get to see DJ Dallas, who was active today, but we didn't see. So there's those pieces that are maybe more hopeful, but I think that's a big one. Jeff, I think the Jordan Brooks one for me, if that's serious, that's maybe my biggest concern of these, because I haven't seen enough of Brooks to say, but I have seen enough of Cody Barton to say that he is just an okay player. Like, he's not a starting quality player in my estimation, and having to have him be your starter, I don't love. In fact, I would argue Shaquem Griffin is maybe a better Sam linebacker than Cody Barton. I thought Shaquem actually made some nice plays, not even just in pass rush, but in coverage today at the end of that game. And he's a playmaker. I haven't seen Cody Barton make any plays. So that's my concern is Brooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's part of a bigger picture right now that Brooks, Darrell Taylor, and Damian Lewis are all injured. So that's their first 3 picks. And by all indications, picks they thought were pretty good. So taking all 3 of those guys out of the lineup is really, really tough right now. And Brooks showed some stuff in coverage early in the game before he went out. I didn't see too many sideline to sideline plays. He adds a lot of speed. But I don't know. He'd rank pretty low on that list for me because I think obviously Adams is so much bigger. And I don't know how much time we're going to spend on this, but the corner play is so bad right now outside of the slot.
Oh, we're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, just taking Adams out too. We were thinking this might be the best secondary. Right now, it looks like maybe the worst.
Oh my God. So, I have to give it to Johnny Tsunami in chat. He wants to make sure all of you guys know to not worry that Trey Flowers is perfectly healthy.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Derek, I want to follow up on one conversation. Seahawks passed on early downs 67% of the time.
More than Atlanta.
That seems.
It was 60
38 out of 57.
Yeah, it was 64 point something in Atlanta.
Yeah.
One thing that influences that is that Seattle kind of got ahead in that Atlanta game early, and they were able to run more. And so that's gonna, draw down your early pass percentage. Whereas this game stayed tight the whole way through, really. So you're gonna keep passing the ball.
I want to call out Udit on, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, one of our patrons. If you haven't already, what's keeping you from joining? Patreon.com/hawkblogger. Get immediate access to our Slack channel where we'll keep talking even during the week. So it's $5. I mean, what's keeping you from doing that? And we raise money for charity. So come on. But he points out a good point, which is you got Miami, you've got Minnesota, and then you've got a bye week. So if you're going to have a Jamal Adams 3-week absence, probably couldn't pick a better time to do it than maybe when they play the Jets and Giants.
Late season Jets, Giants, Washington stretch.
That's a pretty good stretch too.
I think those New York teams lost like 72-6 combined today or something like that.
Was this the toughest 3-game stretch of the season for the Seahawks?
They have like a stretch where they have a bunch of division games in a row.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
It's in the middle. It's right before that New York stretch. But in terms of passing offenses,
how good do you think Dallas is?
Their passing offense is fantastic.
I mean,
the secondary isn't great, but Dallas's pass offense is absolutely legit. They may have the best wide receiver room in the league.
Gallup made play.
How bad are these corners, guys?
Horrible.
I mean, Shaquille Griffin had the pick, and he gets kudos for that, but Shaquille Griffin is not playing well through 3 games.
No, right when they were about to kind of stomp that game out, they had a punt and there was a penalty, and they have them deep at the 6-yard line, up 30-15. And Griffin lets 2 plays for 96 yards or 94 yards, where he's not nowhere near the guy. Like, we were arguing whether he's worth $18 million at this point.
Who was arguing that? Maybe Evan. I wasn't arguing.
Yeah, no, I mean,
come on, man.
Through 3 weeks, I'm eating some major crow.
Yeah, where are you on the extension with him? Do you even if they signed an extension right now and it was affordable? Are you excited about that?
No, I want to see how the rest of the year goes. I'm not confident in him right now, and it sucks to say that because I love him and I think he has a ton of potential. He's just a really inconsistent player, and if he wants to be paid like the money that he's rumored to wanting to be paid, the first 3 games don't cut it.
Derek, I got to say, one of the things that was most concerning about Shaquille Griffin wasn't his coverage. His coverage was awful most of the game. The thing that really got me was one of the last receptions he gave up on the 2-play Shaquille Griffin touchdown drive that Dallas had, when I don't know, it was Wilson or whoever had the crossing pattern that got in front of Shaquille. He stopped running. Like he did not run after him to try to tackle him. He just slowed down to a jog. There's 2 things that said to me. One, this guy doesn't have the grit that I want to see in any of my Seahawks players, or he's starting to lose confidence in himself, which is almost worse as a cornerback. And I thought he came back a little bit, but what do you make of Shaquille Griffin? Does this guy have what it takes to actually come back and be a solid starting cornerback?
I think we've seen it. I mean, we saw it last year for the first 10 weeks. He was fantastic.
It was a Pro Bowl alternate,
and then
right?
over the last 6 or so games last year, it kind of didn't go so well. And same with the playoffs, it didn't go so well. And now to start this season, it's not going well. So I don't know where I'm at. I think I'm with Evan that I wouldn't want them to sign an extension right now. There's just, we've seen more probably bad play than we have good play from them.
All right.
All totaled together.
I want to go round robin with this really quick. Everybody, yes or no? Next week, if Quentin Dunbar can't play for some reason, do you want Trey Flowers to start? Or what is his name? Lyndon Stevens? And let me make it even harder for you. Let me make it even harder. If in base defense, non-nickel situations, do you want Trey Flowers starting or Ugo Amadi?
Trey Flowers does not deserve playing time right now.
Is there anyone that wants Trey Flowers on the field regardless? Like that you'd take him over even guys that are on the bench right now? Anybody?
I'd probably take him over guys on the bench. Yeah.
Okay, Derek, tell me why.
too.
I'm ready on this one. Come on. Oh,
I don't-
there too? Tell me.
A little, this much.
I mean, do you have any faith in the other guys on the bench? I mean, is there
I
any
will
hope?
take
I mean,
the
you could take the chance.
possibility of
Yeah.
performance over the pot of no possibility of performance. Trey Flower has proven he's not the guy. He wasn't close today. And
That looked like the Green Bay game, the playoff game.
the ball landed in his stomach sitting on the ground.
That was a tip ball. Like that's as weak as it.
Sorry. I'm a little
No.
really
Trey-
it drove me nuts watching Trey play today. I don't think he should play on the field.
No, he doesn't look like an NFL player. To be honest, he can't. He doesn't have the coverage or the ball skills to start on this level. He just doesn't. And the Dunbar acquisition was supposed to motivate him, but that's as bad as a game from a corner you can ever have. He looked. Yeah. Let's move on.
No, I feel bad because I screamed it in Derek and Dana's ear. So why? Like, what is it about Trey that makes you guys feel like, yep, let's give him another chance? What are you seeing that I'm not?
I think he had some good games last year, and so you've seen, no, are they Pro Bowl level games? No, but has he played to the point of being potentially a starter? I think he's played there last year, and yeah, he's had a few rough games, but I'm probably taking him over the guys on the bench.
Dana, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the devil right? Like, so we could throw one of these other kids in there, and maybe they need to do that. Maybe they need to throw them in for a couple of plays just so we can see what happens. But we can't discount who they were playing against. They were playing against Dak Prescott, who's fantastic, and those great wide receivers. I want to give a little bit of leeway with that. Would I be worried about Trey starting against the Dolphins? Not near as much, to be quite honest with you. And no offense, Dolphins fans, but against Fitzpatrick, I don't think I'd be as worried. But here's the thing. I think that what Derek said is right. We saw that flashes last year. And I said when they got Dunbar, I was very excited about that. But I was also very comfortable to have Flowers as a backup, as we thought we might need him here and there. I still feel that way. Now, Stevens, is that his name, that could come in? Maybe they need to throw him in there for some plays so we can at least get some eyeballs on him. But I don't know. I
more of a slot guy.
Yeah. And so I just think that maybe I don't know. I think it's more the devil We know what we're getting, and maybe that's better for game planning. I don't know.
Hopefully,
I want you
Dunbar's
to know something. I make that pick today. I
do,
make that. Evan Hill.
I give you a hard time.
Today.
You make it.
I make it. I'm not going to make any claims about my coverage skills, but if that hits me in the chest, that's an interception.
And if you
At
don't,
least if you drop it, it's going to hit the ground. Yeah.
if you don't catch it, I'm pretty sure you don't kick it up into the receiver's hands to make it a completion.
I'm just saying.
That was pretty funny.
Oh, your sense of humor, Dana.
I know. Honest to God.
Yeah, that was not that. I think that was a low point for me during. That's a low point for everyone.
God. How does that happen? It
That
doesn't
was-
happen very often. I mean, it's one of those "are you freaking kidding me" moments, and so I laugh because what else can you do?
But you know what that was for me, Dana? It was the Tedrick Thompson moment.
Fair.
That is now forever a description of a moment where you are no longer allowed to play in the secondary for my side.
But these are moments where these are defensive moments that break Brian. Dana,
Oh.
you understand that? This will forever break Brian. Brian will remember this for a long time.
I'm nearly in tears. Like that was so bad. It was so bad.
No, it was pathetic, and I truly
wasn't
believe it's
good.
playing time.
Did you
And
see,
even there,
did you see when Dak went at the end of the game, he went up top. I can't remember who he's passing to against Shaquille Griffin. And like, I don't know who it was. It was like Gallup or CeeDee Lamb or someone was up against Flowers and had like a wide open slant. Like Troy Aikman called it out.
Pointed it out, yeah.
I don't know why they're not throwing that kid's direction. I'm like,
oh yeah,
God.
We can laugh because we won.
Yeah. Well, hey, like Evan, your boy Jason Myers did his job today.
Jason Myers is flawless through 3 weeks.
100%.
Everybody shits on this man every single year, every offseason. His contract was so bad. They paid him $3.5 million a year. Get shit on. Get shit on. Jason Myers is flawless. Everybody's getting shit after that.
No,
I love that rant after he kicked 4 extra points.
Such a good game.
Hey, did you see that Dallas kicker today?
I
Did you see the
know.
Dallas kicker?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Hey, we got to give Trey
Fair
Flowers.
point, Greg.
He blocked an extra point.
Fair. He did. That was important.
yeah, special teams has actually been pretty good. Like Michael Dixon was awesome today.
Yeah.
They created the play that forced the guy dropped the ball. That led to the safety. They had a bunch of good special teams tackles. That was quietly a pretty good strength today.
It's true. And you know what's funny about that, Jeff, is you're totally right. But have you guys noticed that our punt coverage people are not getting downfield? Like there was a number of times where Dixon hit a punt and it bounced like 4 or 5 times, and there still was nobody from the Seahawks coverage team within the screen to see them yet. I'm like, are they just really slow? Are they like playing some kind of special blocking? I don't know, but that seemed a little odd to me. But you're right. Dixon was great. I also want to call out one Mr. Jaron Reed.
Ugh,
How do you think he played today, Evan?
played okay.
He's no Quentin Jefferson.
He's no
Yeah,
Quentin Jefferson. How many sacks? How many forced fumbles did Quentin Jefferson have today?
Yeah, all the Quentin Jefferson talk got real quiet when they almost blew a 28-3 lead today.
I think it's very confusing. You guys cheer more for a player that is not on the Seahawks than one that is. Jaron Reed, in all seriousness, played a good game. That wasn't his only good play.
No, he played a good game today. Like what we saw from Jaron Reed today is what we need to see from him all year long for this defensive line to be anything close to mediocre.
Yeah.
They're just
Defensive line showed at least something today, though.
They did.
Not great. And like Demontre Moore had a brutal game.
Ooh. Yes.
Couple penalties.
That offside.
That play at the end where Benson Mayo has him like lined up for a sack and he almost got David Tyree there.
If that had gone for a touchdown.
Oh.
Let me ask you this. When that ball was in the air, what were you expecting to happen? Because you couldn't see where it was going.
Wide open touchdown, I was expecting. Yeah.
Jeff?
100%.
I was pacing around my basement the whole fourth quarter. And when that play happened, I threw my hat on the ground because they had him sacked, game over. And then I thought like it was kind of like the can play. I gave them like a 1% chance of making a play.
I definitely was like, that's going to be a touchdown, isn't it? Like, it was maybe not like 100%, but I was like over 50%. Let me ask this crew, which team had more quarterback hits today?
That's a good question.
Seems like a trick question.
The way you're asking it, it's gonna be the Seahawks.
But would
That's
any of you have
surprising, though.
guessed? Let me ask you this, since I've pretty much given it away. Would any of you have guessed that the Seahawks had 2 more quarterback hits than the Cowboys on the day?
No.
Brian, there was that one guy who kept writing us during the game. That Seahawks guy who was like, "Oh, I told you." Like,
which guy?
There was like some
That
Seahawks
does
fan
surprise me.
who kept writing us during the game because we said like the Seahawks line would be fine against their pass rush, and every time Russell got hit, he'd be like, "Oh, the Cowboys' defensive line is killing them. You guys are wrong."
We're wrong about all sorts of things.
I know,
like
but
that's kind of
to
our
hear that
brand.
makes me feel way better. That they had more quarterback hits.
People don't tune in for us to be right about things. They tune in like
No, otherwise Evan would be off the show.
Right.
Yeah, we called the secondary maybe the best in the league.
Evan's been like, he's on a hot
still
streak.
can
Like
be.
he was on about DK last. Like I said this week, his takes are not necessarily at all based on logical process, but he has been like shooting some BBs in the dark and nailing some birds.
I'm really frustrated with this secondary though. And I just want to bring that conversation back here for a second. Like this was supposed to be a strong point of this defense, guys. Like this pass rush, has struggled obviously, and we expected that going into this year. Like, it was pretty predictable, but this secondary is not the strength that it needs to be. And I don't know if they need to make moves. I don't know what they need to do, but I don't think they're going to be able to sustain this in the long run. Let me put it that way.
Well,
No.
they were missing Quentin Dunbar today, and I know Quentin Dunbar hasn't been amazing, but he did
I
have a
get
pick
it.
last game and did play better last game. So I think
Even Diggs didn't really have a great game, though. Like, Quandre Diggs didn't play that well on first sight, at least.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I can't argue. I mean, my most hopeful thing about that secondary is Ugo Amadi. I thought Ugo played really, really like if his PFF grade isn't really high, I'm gonna be like, they've got a vendetta against him because I thought he was everywhere he should be.
Yeah.
But
2-point stop was huge.
yeah, it was huge. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, without Jamal Adams, we're gonna see. I think you got to give Ryan Neal some credit. He had the final interception, which wasn't a hard interception, but he caught it, which is more than some people. And I mean, seriously, if he hadn't caught it, the Cowboys would have had another play, right? That was
I know.
That's
Evan
that's
Hill,
the one
quarterback
thing.
great. That's all I have to say.
Dak could have just thrown that ball away, and they'd had another chance.
Yeah, because Benson almost sacked him on that one. That's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of weird about Dak? I mean, on one hand, the guy threw for almost 500 yards, and was really had a lot of great things. On the other hand, I kind of don't fear him in those moments. Like, I don't know. I have not seen him consistently be the guy that steps up. Whereas Russell Wilson, it's just like every time. I mean, I have to admit, I'm coming clean. When the Cowboys went up, I was pretty much like, this isn't going to go well. Seahawks offense has been struggling. The Seahawks defense can't stop anything. Even if the Seahawks score, Seahawks defense is not going to stop them. Like, but Russell Wilson, I mean, he found multiple ways. I don't know about Dak. I mean, I think he's a really good player. I'm not saying he's bad, but do you guys have those same question marks about him as a quarterback?
I think it's just an unknown so far. Like, he's still a fairly relatively young player, isn't he? Like, I don't know. I think also when you compare him to Russell Wilson, like, I'm not sure you'd want another quarterback in the NFL over Russell Wilson in like a 2-minute drive. So I don't know. Dana?
Yeah, no, I was going to agree. I think that we have to look at it a couple of different ways. I think that I think that we are a little spoiled, and that because when I will admit, when they went up 31-30, yeah, I started pacing. I pace my back haul. It's just what I do. But at the same time, I was like, oh, if anyone's going to do this, Russell's going to, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. It's only if they don't leave him enough time, and then they left way too much time. But that's another conversation. But
Will stay so calm during the games.
yeah, Will kept telling us to calm down, but he had a good point. Yeah, Will put this on Twitter, and I'm sure you guys will see this. He said, I don't understand how you can be panicking when you have Russell Wilson down, 1 point with 2 minutes left and say he's the MVP at the same time. And I get that. And I kind of, I understand where that comes from because I have full faith in him. I didn't have faith in the defense to stop him if they left him anytime. So that's kind of where I got. But I think that Dak, I don't know. I think that this year is going to be a little bit of an adjustment because of a new head coach. And so we'll see how that goes. But Dak doesn't seem to have the threat level that maybe a Drew Brees or a Lamar Jackson and some of the others have. I agree there.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot. I haven't verified this for sure, but I think the Seahawks have scored in every quarter so far this season. They scored in all 4 quarters this game, and I'm pretty sure they did that against New England as well. I know they did it against Atlanta. They're gonna have to keep scoring. We know that. You got to look at Dak Prescott as a guy here. If you're a Cowboys fan, as much as you're excited about some of the numbers he put up, 2 interceptions at the end of the day, a fumble, that turned into a touchdown. I think that's got to be a concern if you're a Cowboys fan. But I think you got to assume that this Cowboys team is going to be in the playoffs. Looking at that NFC East, I mean, who else? The Eagles tied the Bengals today. Like, it's in Washington's awful. I don't know who else is going to do it in that division. So definitely not the Giants after what happened here. So anyone else have other items before I wrap on this game?
I'll just say Seahawks have scored 111 points through the first 3 games. That is incredible.
What is their average per game? Because you guys were talking about this before the season started. They had to hit a certain number.
20. Brian, your number was 27, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So 111 through 3 games is
37.
37. Thanks for the math.
Wow, Brian, the math guy.
I don't know if that's actually right, but it's around
Okay,
there.
well, let's see. 0.4. Yeah, they're way ahead of any other team.
It
The second
is 37,
highest
Brian.
team
It
is
is 37.
Buffalo at 93. So Seattle has 111. Buffalo's second
Yeah,
at
but
93.
Green Bay hasn't played yet tonight, and they're
Well,
the
Aaron Rodgers just got sacked, so if you saw me fist pumping, that was why.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to go watch that game as well. Yeah. Anything else? Evan, Dana, Jeff, parting thoughts?
I
Got to
do
fix
have one.
defense. But go ahead.
Go
Nate.
ahead, Evan.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. Evan, you go
Yeah.
first. I'm sorry.
We should end up.
That was the extent of my thoughts. We have to fix this defense because it's a problem. It really is. It's not going to hold up in the playoffs. They have to do something before the trade deadline.
All right, Dana, you go, and then Jeff, I'll give you last.
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll, they was asked about the defense in his post game, and he said that asked if he had confidence on getting the pass rush from the inside. And he said that they're always looking. So fingers crossed, right? My point is this. I have said this the entire time that I've been covering the NFL, and I think that this season it applies even more than it normally would, is that I don't think you truly know who a team is until you get to week 4 to 6. I think that that's when everything gels, especially new coaches, new players, rookies, all that other thing. With not having a preseason, I think that's even more so. So do I have confidence in this defense? I don't right now. Do I think they can get better? Yeah, I do. And so we'll just hopefully, if these injuries aren't serious, because I mean, the Bears lost our running back today to an ACL. I mean, there's just so many injuries. It's out of control. I think, but if they can get those people back, get through their early bye week, which is going to be beneficial this year, I think that we have some hope there. Are they going to be a top 10? No, but hopefully, it'll be enough to keep other teams at bay. So I want people to hold their judgment just a little bit. Let us get through 6 weeks before we completely write them off.
Jeff, parting thought?
Yeah, I don't think we spend enough time talking about Russell Wilson, to be honest. Anyway, but second, we'll spend more time on that later. My parting thought is the next 2 games are going to be really telling for me of how to evaluate the defense. They've played 3 of the hardest offensive. Brian kind of alluded to that earlier, and they played Miami and Minnesota, 2 offenses that are much lower in terms of quality and passing game. One of the things, just like I talk a lot about league-wide stuff. I watched almost all the games today this morning. I don't know if it's a thing related to not the fans not being there, but I find around the league it's much harder to play defense, and the scoring is way higher than usual. I don't know if it's hard to, no lead seems safe. So I feel like a lot of the games just might be like this. Like if Seattle had that crazy noise today when they went up and they had the ball at the 6-yard line, I don't know if it's as easy to hit a 94-yard touch, like the 94-yard drive. So I think this is something that maybe periodically gets better as fans come back in, but this seems to be a league-wide trend, not just a Seattle trend, where teams, if you watch that Bills-Rams game, for example, usually 28-3 lead in Buffalo, that's over. And the Rams just march all the way back. So I think this is a problem across the league and why offensive numbers may be so high. And the lack of preseason might hurt the defense, usually when defenses start ahead of the offense.
Yeah, those are great points, Jeff. And I got my eyes on the fact the Seahawks, they had announced that they are going to keep no fans for the first 3 games of the season. And I looked at that and I was like, New England, Dallas, and Minnesota, those are like games you really want to have your fans to help you win. And I think fans would have made a difference in this game. I think that Cowboys offensive line was already shaky, and to have the fans in their ear, I think would have made a difference. I think it's crazy. I think you look at this game, the Seahawks scored 38 points. They really scored 45, guys. They really did. Like, it didn't show, but they basically did. And they struggled some. Like, there were points in that game they struggled. And they put up what should have been 45 points. Like, they almost put up a 50 burger. So I think we're seeing a historic offense right now. I think that's not a crazy thing to say. And I think we're going to have to see how that goes. Looks like they're going to need it. But guess what? There's been other Super Bowl winners that have needed that kind of performance on one side of the ball to do it. I wouldn't take any other unit on either side of the ball over the Seahawks offense right now. Period. And that's a pretty good place to be, undefeated against what I think are going to end up being three pretty good teams. I know the Falcons are 0-3, but man, those are some tough luck losses. I think we might see Dan Quinn getting let go, unfortunately. But anyway, we're going to remind people, one, that we got another show coming up on Wednesday this week. There'll be a lot to talk about, a lot of news that we're going to have to go through in terms of the injuries and other pieces. We got already a handful of additional patrons that joined up during the show. I'm getting notifications as they're jumping in here. So join the party, patreon.com/hawkblogger. It's $5. Come on in, add you to our Slack channel. A lot of good conversations, a lot of good stuff. That is nothing from the group on the show. Some of the smartest people aren't even on our show. So it's great to have some smart, friendly people talking Seahawks, and it's a good distraction from all the other stuff going on in the world. So we welcome you. Love to see you there. If you haven't already, click subscribe. Click the little bell, get notified when we go live. And folks, last thing I will say, next game we play very well might include Snacks Harrison. That's something to look forward to. I think that could be something that is something to build on. So let's hope, let's see. And with that, I'm going to say good night and go Hawks.